And for a quick reaction to the new SOE regulations, we are now joined by Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice, Michael Jackson. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right,
Good
first of
evening.
all, what are some of the changes outlined in the newly tabled regulations?
Some of them that we quickly gleaned is that, for example, with the Rushing Clark matter, we saw where under that then regulation, you had the ministerial ability or power to issue detention orders. That has seemingly been removed. We also saw circumstances where the minister could object to the findings of the review tribunal, and that has seemingly been removed. We saw where there were broad provisions under regulations 22, for example, that were so broad that you weren't sure if it is that it was justified to restrict one's movement. And certainly the court had found it unconstitutional, and that has since been removed. And I keep using the word seemingly because there are some provisions in the existing regulations that is still cause for concern that will still undermine things such as freedom of movement. And I just want to quickly plug some of these things because I know we're strapped for time. So for example, under the current regulations 33, we see where the powers to restrict freedom of movement is now given to the police if there is reasonable suspicion. So the police can say, all right, I'm going to ask you to remain in your household. I'm going to tell you who you can communicate with because I think perhaps you can commit a crime. I'm going to prevent you from doing that. That is problematic. We believe that contravenes the power of the police in terms of issuing a house arrest for someone. Again, that's a cause for concern. When we look at this thing about the minister being able to issue detention order that was removed, the current regulations, for example, under section 38, I believe, it says that a competent authority can actually issue an objection to the review tribunal. Now we have to go to the definition of a competent authority in the regulation. Interestingly enough, the Minister of National Security is a member of that competent authority, as well as members of the security forces. And when you look at what makes up the review tribunal, such as QCs that we've seen, eminent attorneys, a member appointed by the Chief Justice, on what basis do we need a competent authority to raise an objection? So again, this is why I say seemingly been removed, because all you see is another body setup that has the same functions that the same Minister of National Security is a member of.
Okay, so overall, looking on the new document that's tabled, you're saying, or do you believe that it is now in line with the court ruling in the Rushing Clark Attorney General ruling?
Absolutely not. And that's why I kept using the word seemingly. Some of the regulations are too broad, and we see where some regulations may undermine one's constitutional right. I go to regulations 29 that says a member of the security force can say to you, tell me something. And what it does is that you must speak to the best of your knowledge. In our estimation, that undermines the principle of remaining silent and not self-incriminating yourself.
So what would you want to see something change in terms of the document then?
Yes, the regulation needs to be a little bit more streamlined to the intent of the government that says I'm fighting crime, but I'm targeting these sets of persons.
Okay.
What we're seeing is that a regulation that is too broad that may remain problematic.
All right, good. We hear you. Thank you very much. That is Michael Jackson, the Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice, reacting to the new regulations for the SOE that were tabled in Parliament.